Hi, this is E.R. Brooks, and welcome back to Storytime with Brooks. Today we find ourselves in Chapter 14 of Kidnapping Grimm, so without further ado, here is Chapter 14. And as always, thank you for all the likes, shares, comments. Really appreciate you guys. So, here's Chapter 14. Chapter 14. I would not recommend falling off a cliff. Faye. She slept with wolves without fear, for the wolves knew a lion was among them. R.M. Drake. I had waited for what felt like 100 years to take my revenge on the realm, to free my sisters from the curse that had bound generations of Grimms. But now, when I was finally on my way to put things into motion, everything started to go wrong. It started with the birds. The fog was so dense I could barely make out the path in front of me. I tripped over tree roots and ducked over low branches that I would have sworn hadn't been there a minute ago. Every nerve was on edge as a deathly quiet surrounded me. The only noise left was the crunch of leaves underfoot. I was rehearsing the oath in my head. It was the only thing I had to do to get to the ruins, but it was the one thing I had sworn I would never give. I am Fey Grimm, descendant of the guardians before me, and I have come to pledge my allegiance. Darkness find me. Court, come bind me. The words halted in my mind, the rest too unbearable to even think. I can't do this. You can for them. I pictured Ember and Evadne's faces, forcing myself to remember the sound of Ember's screams cutting through me anew as she sobbed Evadne's name over and over again. I will protect them. I am Fey Grimm, and I will decide my fate. I am a wolf with a lion's heart, and I am not afraid. The cry of a bird somewhere above me echoed through the foggy woods, startling me so badly I let out a startled shriek. Not afraid, huh? Do you fail to see the irony in this situation? You screamed at a great, big, terrifying, horrifying bird. It was a bird. That's so scary. Yes, well, nobody asked you. A nervous giggle bubbled out of me. It was comically absurd that a bird had caused such a dramatic reaction from me when I had faced real terrors without so much as flinching. Just a bird. Just a crow. Bad luck. Death. Catastrophic change. Then it wasn't just one crow. Another screech joined the cacophony of the first, and then another, and another after that, until the deafening screams filled the air around me. A murder of crows means a foreshadowing, a warning. Something is in the forest that doesn't belong. I fought the urge to run. Running would only make it worse. I settled for a fast-paced walk, shifting my backpack nervously as I scanned the fog that enveloped the trees around me. The hair on the nape of my neck stood on end, and goosebumps exploded over my skin. Crap! Something moved over there. I definitely saw it. I struggled to rein in my overactive imagination. Don't be silly. You're not in the realm. Crows are common for the woods. Nothing is wrong. Then what's that smell? The smell was definitely wrong. It in no way belonged to the woods, but I couldn't quite place it. It almost smelled like a mix of several men's aftershaves and the stale stench of old sweat, but it couldn't be that. These were private woods, and no one had dared to come near them since the boy had been killed. Stupid humans. When I came home, one of the first things I'd noticed was the extremely tall, wrought iron fence that ran around the 2,000-acre perimeter of our property. When I'd asked Ember about it, she explained what had happened, about the body of the boy, and then all of the accusations and the grief that had been laid upon our family. Even after the case had been deemed a mountain lion attack, the people in town refused to believe it, heaping up rumors and blame that isolated my family from the community. When they put up the fence, it only increased the rumors that they had something to hide, and the police had given up before they could find the real story. Evadne told me that the gossip ranged from our parents being murderers who enjoyed tearing people limb from limb, to the ridiculous claim that we kept a savage wolf loose on our property, one that only obeyed our commands and was always hungry for blood. The girls had already graduated when this all happened, having both skipped a year in high school, so the only interaction left with the town was Evadne's ballet. Evadne dreamed of becoming a principal dancer in the American Ballet Theater, and she refused to let the hate from the community steal that dream away from her. She ignored every vicious look, each blatant threat, and the harsh instruction of her teacher. Instead, she poured herself out into every movement. She clung to dancing like a lifeline, letting it become an alternate reality that saved her from the nightmarish future that loomed in front of her. It was an anchor that gave her the strength to remain unbroken, despite the uncertainty and fear, even though she knew that when she was taken, it would be wrenched from her grasp. I am going back to save them. I will give Vadney that chance. The birds continued to screech and cry above me, and I pulled my mind away from my sister and back to the present, trying to steady my nerves as I continued to follow the path through the woods. La-di-da, nothing to see here. I'm just an innocent human who's scared of crows. Shut up. A small part of me wished that I could have taken a horse, but I was unwilling to leave it to roam through the woods in search of home when I reached the edge of the human realm. It would be cruel to abandon it to such a fate. Enough monsters haunted these woods that it wasn't likely to reach home safely. A horse certainly would have been helpful to make this trek through the borderlands a little quicker. The value of my blood and the strength of my power, albeit drained, was enough to signal any power-seeking Fey where I was. I was in undeniable danger until I was through the gate and back in the realm. Something was moving through the woods around me. I could hear it, but it was obscured by the thick fog. The strange smell grew stronger, and I fought the urge to run. Please be a bear. Please, please let it be a bear. If it was a bear, I had a better chance of survival than I would if I was fighting a Fey who knew the value of my life. I looked around frantically, searching for what I was afraid would be lurking in the trees. There was something to my left, and I faced it, slowly backing away as I tried to figure out a plan of attack or escape. Stay calm, stay calm. I had been so focused on what was in front of me that I neglected to pay attention to what was now behind me, also hidden by the dense fog. My balance wavered as my right foot met empty air. I swung my backpack off, trying to use its momentum to pull me forward away from the cliff's edge. It wasn't enough. My bag disappeared into the fog as my left foot slid, losing traction against the crumbling edge. Crap, crap, crabbity, crap, crap, crap! No, no! Too late. I was falling. There was no way to stop what I had unheedingly done. I screamed, my stomach lurching. My limbs were lead weights, pulling me down faster and faster. This is what happens when you let your imagination run wild. You do dumb things and fall off of cliffs. You're crazy. There was nothing there, and now we're gonna die. There was a muffled shout, and a pair of hands flashed into my vision, grabbing for me in a desperate attempt to stop my fall. See? I'm not crazy. Something was there. Good for you. You're still falling off of a cliff. They were an inch too late, grasping nothing but empty air as I continued to fall. Is this what the monster was trying to warn me about? I was careening through open air. Then sharp, stinging pain enveloped my senses as branches tried to catch me, then broke under my weight and momentum. I hit the ground hard, tumbling down a steep embankment as rocks and dirt scraped to the skin from my hands and arms, punishment for my negligence. Ouch! Ouch! My forehead smashed into something solid, and the world vanished into darkness. Thank you for listening to this week's chapter. As always, I appreciate everybody's encouragement, and I hope you all have a wonderful week and come back next week for the next chapter. Have a good day, and